Okay, what is going on? Dear Disney, you destroyed Star Wars. Here's what you do next from your boy Star Wars Theory.
Fulfill your destiny.
Oh, look at it. I got the prodigal son, scavenger girl, hermit, withered.
TheorySabers.com. George Lucas understood that Star Wars was more than a space adventure. It was about spiritual growth and
Didn't he always describe it as like a space western or a space western with like just samurais or something? Didn't he get like some sort of inspiration from like samurai movies? Or am I thinking of like Quentin Tarantino? I think I'm thinking of Quentin Tarantino. But still, well, no. Yes, space, western, samurais.
the battle between light and darkness within each and every one of us, and that it's never too late to change your path. Lucas took inspiration from world religions, mythology, and philosophy to shape a saga that resonates on a deeper level. Yoda's teachings in The Empire Strikes Back, or Qui-Gon Jinn's emphasis on the living Force in The Phantom Menace, show that the Force was always meant to be mysterious, transcendent.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Force was always the magic part of Star Wars that you can kind of get away with. Oh, some miraculous bullshit happened. It's the Force. All right, I think everybody was on board with that. That wasn't that little veil wasn't being pulled over anybody's eyes. It's the temporary suspension of disbelief part.
In contrast, Disney's approach feels shallow. Rey's journey in the sequels is more about discovering powers than understanding the Force's philosophy.
Oh, surprise, I can heal now. Oh, surprise, I'm just good at lifting shit now. Oh, surprise, I'm just good at sword fighting now. Oh, surprise, I'm good at resisting the Force torture now. Duh.
Skywalker.
There's no training, no meditation, no sense of connection. It's almost as if Disney sees the Force as a tool to create cool moments rather than a guiding principle. And why is this? Because depth takes time, and time doesn't generate fast profits.
True.
As we know from Bob Iger's biography,
Bro. Any time like a rich person puts out some biography of them, I am just so disinterested. First of all, I didn't even know this little book was even made. So, #1 New York Times bestseller. Oh, what a surprise! Robert Iger, The Ride of a Lifetime: Lessons Learned from 15 Years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Oh boy, I wonder if anything controversial is in this book. Probably not. This thing has probably been edited umpteen amount of times in order to make sure it's the most least offensive thing you could ever possibly imagine.
they were rushing to get Star Wars movies out as fast as they could to meet Q4 projections. Disney, at the end of the day, is a business. And this video isn't to expose more of their shortcomings when it comes to being creative and understanding what Star Wars is and George Lucas.
No, you do not need a YouTube video to expose Star Wars or Disney. They literally expose themselves.
Lucas's legacy, but rather to shed light on what they've done in order to fix it and to say that it's not too late. In this video, I will explain many of the contrasts between the George Lucas Star Wars movies and the short-sighted Disney Star Wars movies, what they did wrong, and how they can change to make things come back to the way it was. Because at the end of the day, we just want better Star Wars. We want Star Wars to be what it was when we were kids, which is timeless under George's vision.
So here's what I think. Right before. I don't really think Star Wars can come back, at least if a person is in charge. The people that you want to make Star Wars, that will probably never be in a position to make Star Wars movies. It's just what I think. It's just an opinion. If I were to guess, bro, how funny would it be if they just leave the story of Star Wars up to just AI? Just plug in ChatGPT 5.0 and be like, okay, ChatGPT, take all the Star Wars movies, take all the Star Wars media, take all the criticisms from the internet, and then make the next Star Wars trilogy. I think the AI would be able to make a better Star Wars movie than any person could.
To bring back his vision, Disney needs to let the Force be mystical, complex, and something characters actually struggle to comprehend, not just instantly master. George built his characters with care, letting them grow, evolve, and hold on to their core values. But Disney's handling of these legacy characters, it feels more like a dismantling than a tribute. Luke Skywalker, one of cinema's greatest heroes, and one of mine, was reduced to a broken man with no hope.
Oh yeah.
Han Solo went from a dedicated leader to a failed father who abandoned his family, and Leia, once a fearless leader, is almost a side note. In Return of the Jedi, Luke is willing to sacrifice himself for his father's redemption. But Disney's Luke in The Last Jedi is a man who nearly kills his nephew in fear. Luke's defining trait was his unbreakable hope. So turning him into a disillusioned hermit felt less like character development and more like Disney trying to subvert expectations for shock value.
Yeah.
And let's not even
Like the whole thing with like, what is it? Like the third trilogy of Star Wars movies? I don't even remember. So much shit happened either off screen or in between the movies that was not shown on screen. And when you try to do that, the audience, and you try to like, you're supposed to like let the audience see the character change themselves, not assume they changed off screen and now this is the result. That is what happened with a lot of the characters, I think. So much character development happened within each character, just off screen.
talk about the complete disservice to Han and Leia's relationship, a relationship that Lucas spent 3 films building. Instead of showing these characters as battle-worn but resilient, Disney chose to make them shells of their former selves. It's like they tore them down to reboot the series without any regard for who they once were. Why? Because apparently, legacy doesn't matter if it doesn't drive ticket sales. Like I said, Disney is a business. We get it.
And you know what else doesn't matter? A good story. Seemingly. Because the current iterations of the stories of Star Wars don't drive ticket sales either.
But here's the issue. Star Wars became legendary because it wasn't treated like a product assembly line. Under Lucas, Star Wars was a carefully built story, released over decades, away from Hollywood and created from an independent mind. And how has it been since Disney took over? Well, they've pushed out a few movies and a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
I'd say the best of those were
Like some of the, like, I love how we did, like, just edit this thing real quick. Like, there's been some winners, but the majority of this is an L. Like, I actually unironically liked the first, like, what was it? What was the first one? The Rise of the Skywalker? Was it The Force Awakens? Like, yeah, this was like the first one, which I thought was like okay. Yeah, I think this was the first one for the new one. Like, yeah, the story was damn near the same as like a New Hope, and for the most part, and everyone saw it, and everyone was just making that comparison. That's the story's the same thing as the New Hope or whatever. But I was like, oh, that's pretty good. It's all right, and then it just got worse. Oh wait, I just fucked that up. And then it just got worse and worse with each movie. Solo, I didn't even bother with. I think I've seen like little clips. I was just like, meh. What is this? Rogue One. Yes, I saw Rogue One. It wasn't bad. But it wasn't like the greatest either. The Ultimate Guide to, what is it? The hit movie? Oh, there's like a book. The Book of Boba Fett. I think there was like an episode or two which was kind of cool, but every subsequent episode was just bad. It got worse and worse. The Mandalorian, I think season 1 was like the best one, and then it subsequently got worse and worse. I think season 2 was like okay, and then season 3 was just a trash can. What was it, Obi-Wan Kenobi? This was just bad all around. Little kids running away from what was it? She like 4 or 5 little 5-year-olds being able to outrun an adult. Yeah, the what was it? The one trench coat scene that was bad. Vader letting Obi-Wan get away. He can't put out a fire twice because his force battery is just too low. There's just so many blunders and fumbled bags that this was just so bad, dude. Tales of the Jedi, I don't even know if this was good or bad. At this point, I am just so like disconnected from Star Wars. The Acolyte, this was entertaining because all I did was just watch the reviews and each episode, how each one was worse and worse than the last. Oh my god. Andor wasn't bad. It was like okay, I thought. Yeah, it took away the Star Wars lightsabers. It took away the space wizards and whatnot, and just put you in the shoes of like regular guy. Because like the opening like couple minutes of the first episode, it's like, oh my god, you're a regular guy and you just killed someone, or whatever. It's like these guys, like the vibe I got from like the first episode of Andor was just so different. It was like oh my god, you just killed somebody, and people were like losing their shit that this dude just killed somebody, and he's like running away trying to save himself. I was like, okay, this is different. You're given a regular guy, the spotlight. It was a little slow though for me. I mean, it was a lot of dialogue and so on and so forth, which isn't bad, but I was just like, eh. And then Ahsoka, I didn't even watch it. I was like, again, this is another one of those things. I'm like, I'm just bored. Like, no shot on like the actor or the character. Like, I watched what was it, like the Clone Wars, the animated thing, and I thought that was fine. But like this, I was just I was just so disconnected.
Those were Rogue One, The Mandalorian, and Tales of the Jedi.
If you only knew the power.
Oh, that's a meme.
This all in the span of over 10 years now. It's clear that in the beginning they were prioritizing quantity over quality.
Oh yeah.
And it was the bombing of Solo, which was in reaction to The Last Jedi being absolutely horrible, which led Kathleen Kennedy to believe that they were creating too many things too fast and they needed to slow down. She then changed her mind years later to say that the
Imagine if that infographic came out of all that shit and all of those shows and movies. Imagine if they were all good. Bro, Star Wars fans would be feasting. It would have been awesome. Just imagine what we could have had.
the reason Solo bombed wasn't because they were releasing too many projects too fast, but it was actually because they didn't use deepfake for such legendary characters like Han Solo, played by Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And so the audience did
What? Wait, what?
too many projects too fast, but it was actually because they didn't use deepfake for such legendary characters like Han Solo.
No, I mean, that was like a small blip. Like, I could easily tell when they were using like deepfake. Like, oh, Luke Skywalker is there in his like 25-year-old self in like the black Jedi get up and or whatever, or like the deepfake for Leia whenever she passed or whatever, and then they kept using her character. I mean, I could easily tell. I mean, I was more concerned with like the story being good. I was like, this is stupid. I can feel this is contrived. Oh, I'm not the target audience? Oh, okay. Excuse me while I just walk my ass out. I'm not part of the like the 1 or 2% of never mind. I'll just like keep watching. Jesus.
Solo, played by Harrison Ford. And so the audience didn't feel like they really connected with the character. This is the same person who told us, Star Wars fans, that there is no source material, no comic books, no games, nothing.
We don't have source material.
Now, The Mandalorian was
What? Yes, you do. You have an entire chunk of books called the Star Wars Legends series. And I didn't even read them, but I know about them. And even beyond the Legends series. Like, before this little, like, Star Wars takeover, all of those books were canon. And there's a lot of cool-ass shit in there. Because I see, like, Stupendous Waves videos of, like, these random-ass things that were, like, in Star Wars lore. And I'm like, whoa, that's cool. How come the movies never had that? Well, it's because it was in either, like, a book or, like, a comic or whatever. And I'm like, why? That's pretty cool. Why wouldn't they put that in the movie? Well, for reasons, whatever.
a refreshing exception to all of this because it actually focused on telling a story first. But even The Mandalorian has become a cash cow for Disney, used to keep subscriptions up and fuel merchandise sales. Imagine if Disney took their time with Star Wars, focusing on fewer, high-quality projects rather than an endless conveyor belt of content to meet Q4 analytics and earnings. Lucas spent years crafting his vision. Disney barely lets one project breathe before moving on to the next, eager to turn a profit. Now, they could do—
You mean Iger to turn a profit?
do this, I believe, with the same kind of output, but they just need to hire talented people who actually understand Star Wars and care about it. Not people who ridicule and shit on George Lucas like Leslie Headland, who essentially blew $300 million on The Acolyte.
I didn't even know she did that. I mean, what people do in their personal lives, I mean, I really don't care. This is not a requirement for me to enjoy like a product or something like this. But the fact that you like turn out like a piece of shit product, that's the concerning part. Is like, if you're not gonna make something that I'm gonna watch or buy or whatever, then I'm just simply gonna ignore it like a normal adult.
For some sort of a weird therapy session for herself. Complex characters are at the heart of great storytelling, but Disney's approach has been much more formulaic. Rey's journey feels almost like a checklist. Find her powers, win some fights, face a villain, and move on. There's no real inner struggle or development whatsoever. Ask yourself, what did she do to really train and develop her powers?
What training montage did Rey have? I mean, I don't know. Did she have like a little bit of like meditation time or whatever? But like, that's like meh, whatever. Like that's not really relatable to like the audience. Like just meditate and you'll get good. Like, I mean, yeah, from like the like a monk sense, but like, bro, just give me a fucking training montage. It's not that hard. Or not even a training montage. Give me like a little side quest mission, like a training side quest or something.
Powers. Luke's journey was powerful because he failed. He doubted. He grew. When he lost to Vader in The Empire Strikes Back, it wasn't just a—
You know what this reminds me of? This is like you going around in Skyrim and you find like early in the game and you just get out of the cave and then you find like a big ass troll just walking around or some shit and you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to kill that shit. And then you try and you don't save the game beforehand because you don't know. And then all of a sudden the troll is just like, he winds up that big ass attack that we all know. And then he just smashes you in your face. And your body ragdolls. You have 0 health. And it's like, go back to the last save. And you're like, God damn it, that was like a fucking hour ago. And you're going to learn your lesson? Okay, great. That mob's going to whoop your ass. I need to come back and destroy that mob once I gain some levels and some powers and shit. That's what this reminds me of. That's what happened right here. He tried to deviate from the main quest, tried to take on a too powerful mob too soon, too quick. Got his hand got. And yeah, luckily, you know, he escaped with his life. But, I mean, hey, you got a robot hand now, dog. You didn't do the training.
Physical loss. It was a shattering of his entire identity. Rey? Well, she seemed to have it all figured out. Her biggest challenge is finding out that she's a Palpatine. which is practically dropped as soon as it's introduced.
Yeah, where was her limbs that were taken from her? Huh? Why didn't Rey lose any limbs? What, she too good to lose limbs? Huh?
Palpatine returned.
Oh, that line. Somehow Palpatine returned. Oh, what a meme. Oh yeah, I forgot she did that too. It just pow.
It's almost as if Disney didn't want to take the risk of letting their protagonist struggle, because struggles don't sell action figures. Well, I would argue. Then we have...
Oh, really, Disney? Struggles don't sell action figures? Well, the super powerful characters don't sell tickets. How about them apples?
Kylo Ren, Disney's attempt at a tragic villain. He had incredible potential, but his redemption in The Rise of Skywalker was practically an afterthought. Contrast this with Anakin's fall and redemption. Lucas dedicated an entire trilogy to showing Anakin's pain, his choices, his manipulation by Palpatine. Kylo? His redemption is so sudden, it barely makes sense. It's like Disney needed a quick fix to wrap up his story and tie up loose ends. What else can you expect when you don't have directors talking to each other properly, planning out the trilogy, or really understanding Star Wars? And Finn? I mean, don't even get me started on the poor guy. A stormtrooper who defects could have been one of the most...
Yeah, this was like a cool story in the first movie. This was cool. I was like, oh, Star Wars. Stormtrooper gets his marbles back and is like, oh, what have I done? I have made a mistake by joining the military. I'm part of the bad guys. I'm going to get out. And then all of a sudden, the movie just decides to give him a little bit of force sensitivity, which was cool. I'm all down for that little bit of like temporary suspension of disbelief bullshit. It's like, oh, in that one scene, Finn get the lightsaber and he's like, oh, what do you want me to do with it? Are we about to see Finn just start dropping it? Like, I like that. That was a cool part of the movie. But then we didn't really get anything else. Like,
most compelling characters in Star Wars. Remember in the beginning of The Force Awakens when he started to get all disoriented and he was coming to, like as if his mind had been wiped for so many years?
Yeah, like he was like leaving the Matrix. It's like while he had the helmet on, he was in the Matrix, then he take the helmet off, he's out of the Matrix. What was it, the red pill? He took the red pill. And then he's out of the Matrix. He came to his senses. What have I done?
And maybe he was some sort of a force-sensitive Jedi that they were trying to get information out of? Or perhaps maybe Luke wiped his mind, knowing that he was about to be captured so that they...
There's no way this was what he looked like. Was this like the deep fake? It doesn't really look like Luke. Like it kind of does, right? Like it kind of does. But I'm like, when I pause it and look at it, I'm just like,
They wouldn't get any sort of vital information from him, and maybe he goes back to Luke or goes back to his lineage and becomes a Jedi once again and rises to stardom and becomes the hero that we all needed. Instead, Disney sidelines him, and by The Rise of Skywalker, he's practically a glorified sidekick that just screams out Rey. Not to mention they shrunk him in the Chinese poster.
oh yeah, just remember, if you think Disney is righteous and virtuous, when it comes to money, they will bend their knee to whatever the culture is to that country to make money. Oh, you want us to shrink the black guy? We'll shrink the black guy. Okay.
And you can probably guess why. Imagine if Disney had actually explored Finn's trauma, his conflict with his past as a stormtrooper, but that would have required nuance and depth, and apparently, Disney didn't see the value in that. Before Disney, the expanded universe, now called Legends, was a treasure trove of rich stories, beloved characters, and lore that added depth to the Star Wars universe. Something that Kathleen Kennedy had no idea actually existed when she said there was no source material.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. What an L for Disney and Star Wars for this to happen. This is the biggest L I think in cinematic history. Like, imagine if Star Wars was good now instead of a meme.
Disney erased this overnight, and instead, they've given us a new canon that feels hollow. Maybe it's so they don't have to pay royalties to what came before it, I don't know. While there have been some successes, like the reintroduction of Thrawn, Disney's new material often feels like it's cherry.
And Disney can't even hold its own logic correctly. Like, where did Thrawn even come in from? Like, I have no idea what is canon, what is not canon. We have no source material, but you're gonna bring in some sort of a returning character that's never been in a movie before? Has Thrawn been in like in any other movie? Or maybe are they pulling from like comics that they deem canon? Like, I am just so unaware of like the logic that these guys are trying to use.
Cherry-picking the expanded universe for fan service rather than truly honoring it. Fans were excited to see Thrawn in Rebels and hints of the Old Republic in The Mandalorian, but there's so much more Disney could do with the rich history that Lucas helped establish. Instead, they focus on safer, more marketable stories. It's like they just don't trust the audience to appreciate the deep lore. George's Star Wars.
Well, I mean, there's no shot the next whatever Star Wars thing that comes out, like, people are going to give a shit about, either a show or a movie. No, there's not going to be anything. They are going to contrive some sort of statistical analysis to force some sort of like understanding of like, oh, in this single metric we succeeded. When, you know, you could type in any sort of like thing on YouTube or whatever and figure out and use your own like eyes on like feel the vibe, get a temperature check on this show, this episode. What did we think as a whole unit of people about this episode? Was this good? Was this bad? Why was it good? Why was it bad? You know, people can do that. They don't have to eat the bullshit.
Embraced complexity, while Disney's plays it safe, and frankly, I don't think they even really know Star Wars all that well. Unless you get Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau in there, but then they're playing it safe too, and it makes me wonder, are they being controlled? George knew that a real, grounded aesthetic was essential to making Star Wars feel authentic. That's why he used practical effects, miniatures, and real locations whenever possible. Disney, meanwhile, leans heavily on CGI, which often gives scenes a hollow, artificial look. For example, look at the Kenobi show. Everything was extremely claustrophobic.
Bro, I am so sick and tired of Tatooine. Any story on Tatooine, I am immediately disconnected. I don't care about sand. I hate sand. It's stupid. Tatooine is stupid. Everything about Tatooine is fucking stupid. No more Tatooine. I don't want to be on Tatooine. Stop.
Claustrophobic. The Mandalorian proved that fans respond to practical effects, and it feels like Star Wars because it looks like Star Wars. Disney could easily bring back this hands-on approach, but it's costly and time-consuming, kind of like The Acolyte's almost $300 million budget. Instead, they stick with CGI because it's faster and cheaper, but faster and cheaper isn't the Star Wars way, is it? Under George Lucas, Star Wars had a clear vision. Even if it was controversial, Disney's lack of a cohesive vision is painfully obvious. The sequels don't even follow a single storyline. They've gone from a different director with each sequel to appointing committee-led productions. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have shown they understand George's legacy. Give Star Wars to someone who cares about the story more than the merchandise, and we might just get the galaxy we remember.
But they ain't gonna do that. They ain't gonna do that.
End, Star Wars is about hope, connection, and growth, telling the audience that it's never too late to change when you've gone down the wrong path, and what really happens when you have impatience and ego like Anakin did, and that nothing is too good to be true, that when you make a deal with the devil, you will pay for it like Anakin did.
I do like how Star Wrap this all like big old criticism up into like the story of Star Wars. So I like that little part.
Disney can restore the soul of Star Wars. I truly believe this, but only if they stop focusing on shallow, marketable content, agendas, checkboxes, and political divisiveness. They need to start investing in the timeless story that George Lucas envisioned. If Disney truly wants Star Wars to endure, they need to honor the galaxy's heart, and that starts with putting storytelling over sales, just like George did. I love Star Wars with all my heart, and I don't want to see Disney destroy it any further by making poor decisions and hiring the wrong people. Lucasfilm used to mean something. It used to be an independent company, and now it's some massive corporate monster run by people who don't even understand its origins or foundations. People that Disney interjected into Lucasfilm. It's time we go back to what George Lucas wanted, which is to tell a good story, not to divide people. I truly believe Disney can bring it back to what it once was, at least close. I just think they need to hire the right people and to follow their hearts, to remember how they actually were before they became greedy money.
I don't really think Star Wars is going to change. I mean, if they do, great, but if you were to ask me to bet on whether or not Star Wars would be good in, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, I would still bet that it's still going to be bad in 3 to 5 years.
Hungry people. And the funny thing is, once they learn to detach themselves from analytics and reports and greed, they're going to see profits like they've never.
No, they will come up with new analytics that they made themselves in order to show that they succeeded in these analytics to show their investors. There will just be a new set of analytics to go by. The old analytics are out. The new analytics are in.
Never ever seen before. I believe Star Wars can be more profitable than Marvel, DC, and every other franchise combined. You just have to tell the story. Let me know what you guys think. Can Disney restore the true magic of Star Wars?
No. They won't. If they do, it'll be in like I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, maybe. Maybe. Even then, I doubt it. Nah.
Or is it too late? If there's one thing George taught us, is that there's always hope, and that it's never too late to change.
Well, I mean, you can always hope for like a better Star Wars, but I mean, hey, just go back and look at what have they been doing lately. I mean, it's not looking good. I really don't see how they could possibly show that they are going to do better. I mean, this is like a show up or shut up type of deal. Put out a good movie and I'll change my mind. Unless that happens, Star Wars is still bad. I mean, this is not to like be shitting on like Star Wars theory. I've been watching this dude for years. I like his stuff. But until Star Wars is good again, Star Wars is bad to me. But that's just my 2 cents. Whatever. But other than that, good video. And yeah. That's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.